Hey, welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. I am so happy that you have joined me this evening. It is 7 p.m. on the East Coast. So happy that you've given me a couple minutes of your evening. I hope longer than that. As I always ask you to do, please let everybody know, like, comment, share to get that stuff going so that people will start watching this show and start talking about it, I hope, and talking about how cool things are. Well, clearly what everyone's talking about, you're talking about it, so am I, is the recent shootings, right? The shooting in Atlanta, and then, in Georgia, and then Atlanta area in Georgia, and then in Colorado. Get it? Back to shootings again. Okay. Of course, the president said something, as I think he should have. I think that wasn't a bad thing at all. I think we absolutely should. He should have said something. I'm glad he did. But I do want to say something, though. What I've been talking about with both parties, the Democrat and Republican Party, is coming to pass even here. Even, through all of this, it's coming to pass yet again. So let me show you what he said, and I want to comment on it because there were some aspects that were very good, but of course we know what the answer for him is going to be. Of course it is going to be ban guns. Of course, like we knew that was going to happen. But let me talk about what I think was good about this and other parts that maybe weren't so good. But there were some good aspects of this, without question.
Other critical aspects of this mass shooting. I've been briefed this morning by the Attorney General of the United States, the Director of the FBI.
The issue that I hear, though, is, he is briefed, and that's a good thing. But because it is in the news, right? There are people who are dying. This is the news, so he gets briefed. Okay, no worries. Now, why?
Spoken with the governor, and I'll be speaking with the mayor on the aircraft. We're working very closely with the state and local law enforcement officials, and they're going to keep me updated as they learn more.
Don't know why.
You're
That's
ask
okay.
me to speculate. Understandably, you'd ask me to speculate about what happened, why it happened.
Yep.
And I'm not going to do that now because we don't have all the information.
That's actually good.
I have all the facts.
That party, he's right. I'm glad he's doing that part, right? I'm going to give the man credit where credit is due. He's not going, it was anti-whatever. I don't know. It was anti-Asian again, or it was, anti-food market or whatever. He's not doing any of that. He's actually saying, I'm not going to speculate on the reason. Valuable, well done.
But I do know this, as president, I'm going to use all the resources at my disposal to keep the American people safe. As I said, at this moment,
I have to go back to this. And this is a thing we've been saying for years. Heavily since Bush, we've been saying this. The number one job of the executive is to keep Americans safe. No. Let me say it again. No, that's not true. That's not in the Constitution. That's not in the oath of office. That's not in the job description. It is not any of those things. The president takes the same oath that I took as a Marine to defend and support the Constitution, not to defend every single American against everything. And we keep this up. And this started heavily in 9/11. Bush the second started this. Obama jumped on board. Trump jumped on board. Now Biden's on board. This has now become the norm. And now all the governors do it. My governor, I got to keep you safe. Got to keep you safe. But the worst part is we buy it. No one's pushing back. No one's going, dude, no, it's not your job to make sure I'm safe. That's not your job. And that is how they use every single law to punish us and to control us under making us safe. Now, it's not Biden's fault. He agrees with it completely, but it's not his fault. This began a whole lot, far before he was president, but every one of them jumped on it. It is not his job at all to keep everybody safe, and you shouldn't use everything at your disposal to do so. That's not what we're talking about. That's not your job. It was never. Wasn't your job, Trump's job, Obama's job, Bush's job, none of your jobs. Was it my job as a Marine? Not our job.
A great deal remains unknown. Three things are certain. First, 10 lives have been lost And more
Yes.
families have been shattered by gun violence in the state of Colorado.
Yes, true.
And Jill and I are devastated. And
I
the
think,
feeling,
look, this is real for him. And again, I want to give the man credit where credit is due. This is real for him. Look at how he is gripping that podium. No matter what you might think about Biden, whether you like him, hate him, whatever is your thought process, this man knows what it feels like to lose. That's for sure. He's had to bury 2 children and a wife. I can't imagine the pain that this guy has gone through. When it comes to pain and feeling that loss, yeah, that's real. That is real. And man, I wish he would stay just on that, because he does this well. This is Joe Biden's skill set right here, saying, my God, I feel your pain, because he does, because he has. He's felt this pain. He knows what this is like. This is true.
I just can't imagine how the families are feeling, the victims whose futures were stolen from them,
Yep.
from their families, from their loved ones, who now have to struggle to go on and try to make sense of what's happened.
Yes.
Less than a week after the horrific murders of 8 people and the assault on the AAPI community in Georgia, while the flag was still...
Now that's the part that bothers me. That he then called it the deaths in Georgia, true, yes, but then he calls it an assault on the API community. It was it's accurate, right? Because that's what's happening. Yes, it's accurate, but that's a virtue signal. That's a signal to the left. They go, see racism, and that's my problem. That's not the issue. That wasn't the issue in Georgia, but he had to do that, and that part I wish he just walked away from that.
Flying half staff for the tragedy. Another American city has been scarred by gun violence and resulting trauma. And the state, I even hate to say it because we're saying it so often, my heart goes out. Our heart.
God, I love that part too. I got to tell you, he's got some good parts to this, and it's because he's real in this regard. When it comes to the pain, he goes, I'm tired of saying my heart goes out. You know what? Me too, man. Me too. Everybody says it. And now we say it just like nothing, like, oh, hearts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Blah, blah, blah. Doesn't mean anything anymore. He's right. This is valid. So here's the biggest problem. And you're going to see it now. He's going to announce a problem. And he's right. It's a problem. But his solution, not going to be what I want to hear.
Let's go out for the survivors, who had to flee for their lives and who hid, terrified, unsure if they would ever see their families again, their friends again. The consequences of all this are deeper than I suspect we know. By that, I mean the mental consequences.
Yes.
The feeling of, anyway, just.
Oh, don't anyway that. That's a good one. You're right. Yes, you're right. It is. He brings the piece that you hear me talk about when it comes to veterans all the time, right? And that is the veterans the military members and the veterans, right? The military people who have been killed, while that's tragic, of course I feel that. Their journey is over. It's the survivors who feel their pain. And he's saying, survivors, yeah, the people who were shot, while that's horrible and tragic, their journey's over. It's the people who are here now who have to live with regret and pain and angry and all that things. Yes.
Too many of these. The second point I want to make is my deepest thanks to the heroic police and other first responders who acted so quickly to address the situation.
Yep.
And keep the members of their community safe.
Look, I 100%. Guys ran into the fire, right? You run into the fire, much respect. These guys ran into the fire. They ran into the fire. Yep.
To state the obvious, I commend the exceptional bravery of Officer Eric Talley. And I send my deepest condolence to his family, his close family and 7 children. You know, when he pinned on that badge...
Look at his face when he says that. I'm just saying, I'm not going to like how this ends. And you guys know me. You know I'm not going to like how this ends. but I do want to give him props for what he does well, which is this. He actually feels this. He feels this.
Today morning, he didn't know what the day would bring. I want everybody to think about this. Every time an officer walks out of his or her home and pins that badge on, the family member that they just said goodbye to wonders whether they'll subconsciously, will they get that call? The call that his wife got. He thought he'd be coming home to his family and his 7 children.
Yeah.
But when the moment the act came, Officer Tully did not hesitate in his duty, making the ultimate sacrifice in his effort to save.
I believe all the beginning parts, but I'm not sure I buy this part to be full with you. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. If you go back, I don't know, a few days ago, I think he was, talking about, defunding the police and, all those types of things. I think that when it comes to law and order, when it comes to police, I think Biden's a get-along guy. I don't think he actually cares either way. Not that he doesn't care about people, he does, but I don't think he cares personally about cops any more or any less. I don't think he does. I think he's talking about defunding the police like 5 minutes ago, and now he's like, well, cops are great because they did this thing because it serves his purposes. This part, I think, is a get-along piece for him. I don't think he feels any differently about cops than anybody else. I don't.
Lives. That's a definition of an American hero. And thirdly, I want to be very clear.
Here we go.
One thing I do know enough to say on is in terms of what's happened there. While we're still waiting for more information regarding the shooter, his motive, the weapons he used, the guns, the magazines, the weapons, the modifications that apparently have taken place, those weapons.
Well, we know now.
Here, I don't need to wait another minute, let alone an hour.
See, you did.
Take common sense steps that will save the lives in the future. And
as soon as you hear common sense, you know exactly what's coming after that, right? It's like as soon as you hear spaghetti, it's going to be and meatballs. That's just how it works, right? You hear common sense, you know what's coming after, no matter what. It's gun control, guaranteed. Now, it's not like, because he's going to immediately say gun control because I don't have to worry about who did it or why or what weapon they used. Let me be clear. He's going to talk about assault rifles because they always have, assault weapons. He's going to talk about assault weapons as they always talk about assault weapons. They're going to talk about it. Of course they are. And in Atlanta, the guy used a pistol. And in Colorado, the guy used a pistol. So it's not going to affect anything. They both used pistols.
Urge my colleagues in the House and Senate to act. We can ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country once again.
I knew it.
I got that done when I was a senator. It passed. It was law for the longest time.
Yep.
And it brought down these mass killings.
No, it did. No evidence of that.
Do it again.
He made that up. Not true.
We can close the loopholes in our background check system, including the Charleston loophole. That's one of the best tools we have right now to prevent gun violence. The Senate should immediately pass.
There is literally no evidence of that whatsoever. And that's the problem. Everything he said up front was 100% correct. And I wish he had just done that, said how horrible it was, said that we have to look into this and figure out what was the actual problem, figure out how to help this, what he could have done. I wish he would have just done that, said, America, let's look into this and figure this out, and walked away. Because I've been telling you what the problem is for years. Since before I was running for office, I'm on record saying this more than ever. What is killing our youngsters is not guns. That's not what's doing it. That's a weapon they're using, but that's not what's killing them. That's not what's causing them to do this thing. Do you know what's common in just about every single shooting? It's a young man without a girlfriend. I'm not joking. A young man without a girlfriend. Not every time, but like 99.9%, that's what it actually is. That's the problem, right? All the people who took our towers on 9/11, young men, no girlfriends. That's the number one thing. That's the problem. That's the perpetrator. And whether they're white or black or Arab or Hispanic, doesn't matter. Same profile. What is killing our people in America? 3 things. Yeah, you know I was going to say it. Lack of purpose, lack of community, and loneliness. That is what's causing people to act this way. If you want to change this, then we should work on fixing a lack of purpose, a lack of community, and loneliness. People said, and I heard all the time, oh my God, once we come out of lockdown, the second we come out of lockdown, now we're off to mass killing. Well, maybe because of lockdown? Because during the lockdown, people were literally sitting inside their rooms on a computer by themselves, hating life with no mission, feeling lonely, and then going outside and acting in a self-destructive manner. Yeah, that's what it is. They said, by the way, I saw someone just mention in the comments, they found an AR-15. It was not an AR. It wasn't an AR-15. It was a pistol, AR-556 pistol, which can look like an AR-15 if you modify. He modified it so it would look like a rifle, but it actually was a pistol. So this is just another pistol. Both pistols. They call it AR-15 styles. That's my problem. We can repair this if we have real conversations about having Americans move towards happiness. So many people tease me. I do get mad at me saying, Larry, why do you say Libertarian Party, Liberty Movement is about happiness? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Happy people don't shoot others. Happy people don't shoot themselves. Happy people don't do any of these bad things. No, not at all.
Let me say it again. The United States Senate, I hope some are listening, should immediately pass.
They're not listening.
The two House-passed bills that close loopholes in the background check system. These are bills that receive votes of both Republicans and Democrats in the House.
Yep.
This is not, it should not be a partisan issue. This is an American issue.
It is, that's true.
Lives.
You don't know what, please, what evidence that it will save lives? Let's say you had the background checks. Okay, great. Guy from Atlanta still buys a gun. Still buys a gun. The guy the guy here, he would have found a gun and he would have found a bomb. The Boston bomber used bombs, right? That's the guy we were talking about the other night. The Boston bomber used bombs. One of the kids in Parkland, he had pipe bombs ready. That isn't enough. That doesn't make it all of a sudden okay. If young men have no purpose, no community, and are lonely, they will act out violently. That was true 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, 100 years ago, 10 years ago, today, 100 years from now. That hasn't changed and will not change. And locking them down is not helping, and forcing them and pushing them into unnecessary schooling is not helping. None of this is helping. But here's the thing that no one's mentioning. We now know who the guy was, right? I've actually forgotten. I have his name someplace. We have his name, but he's Syrian. Yeah. Didn't you just bomb Syria? He's Syrian. And his last name's Alisa, something like that. He was bullied as a kid. Says it. Became paranoid. His sister and brother said so. So he was sitting home, feeling paranoid, at home all day, not working, no purpose, no friends, no girlfriend, lonely, no community, and decided, I'm going to go out and do some crazy stuff. And did. No purpose, no community, lonely. More dead Americans. But here's the worst part. Here's the worst part. No one has an answer, except me. I'm telling you what to do. You won't do it.
American lives. And we have to act.
Yes.
We should also ban assault weapons in the process.
In the process.
I'll have much
Finally, at least he said that right. We should act and fix some stuff, and in the process, get rid of all the guns.
more to say as we
that'll
learn
work.
more.
So Americans virtually have no power electorally. Virtually have no power. The little guys, I'm sorry, have no power electorally. Little guys have virtually no power financially now after the crash. Now we're going to have no physical power and no guns. Well done. We'll have no power at all. Great.
I wanted to be clear. Those poor folks who died left behind families.
Yes, they did.
A big hole in their hearts.
Just do this, man. You're good at this.
And.
No and.
Save lives.
No, don't do the and part, man. You're good at the first part. Do that and walk off. Yes, that's it.
increasing the background checks so that they're supposed to occur, and eliminating assault weapons, and the size of magazines. I don't know all the detail yet on that.
Yeah. So why are you saying
I'll talk to
something?
you
Don't.
more later today or the next couple of days.
And that was his answer, right? His answer was just do that. Exactly. It's not the right, but to be forward, the Republicans don't have an answer either, right? It's not just a Democrat issue. What I've been talking about forever is the idea that, not forever, for about the last 6 months or so, what's been happening is the Republicans have been becoming the party of no answers. Just stop the left. That's it. And the Democrats have been the party of bad answers. Well, if people are afraid and they want an answer, and the only answers they get are bad answers, guess what they do? They take the bad answers. The worst thing we can do is have afraid Americans. Everything that I can't stand came from afraid Americans, right? Gun control, afraid Americans. Patriot Act, afraid Americans. War on drugs, afraid Americans. Insert Gitmo, afraid Americans. Bombing places, afraid Americans. Every time something bad's happened, it's because of afraid Americans. Let's not make Americans afraid. Let's give them purpose and community and end their loneliness to the best of our ability as a government. Let's do that. Create a good environment for people to go out there and do cool things. And all of a sudden, what? Things might get better. But let me grab, this is the 5 if I go. Let me grab a couple of comments real fast. You know what? Let me just do the 5 real fast. And then I'll grab all the comments. Because Fox responded to this. And they had 2 sides. They actually had some answers on this one. But I want to cover what was on the 5 right afterwards, trying to respond to this. Now move through a little bit. I'm going to move past what they talked about and move right on to
Morning.
Here we go.
On gun violence to demand new laws. Top leaders
new laws, of course.
out afterward.
Republicans seem averse to even wanting to talk about the epidemic of gun violence.
Now, 2 parts of this. The first part, he's right. It is Republicans will just ignore this problem. They'll ignore it. But it isn't an epidemic, right? So he's right and he's wrong. He's exaggerated a problem, but it is a problem. It is absolutely a problem. It's not an epidemic. It's a problem. Republicans won't touch it. So when Republicans don't touch it and people are afraid, what will they do? They will go down the gun control road. They'll go down the gun control road.
Like the start of the COVID epidemic, their strategy is to downplay and hope the problem goes away.
There's a lot of work to be done, and innocent people will continue to die until we do it.
There we go.
For years, we've been blocked by Republican leaders and their special interests. Now,
Democrats are doing the smart thing. If you're a Democrat, well done. If you're a Republican, I'm sorry. Democrats are doing the right thing right now by playing this game. It's the perfect time to do it. You're going to watch them do it. It's well done.
now we can act, and we will.
Let's get some reaction from everybody here. Jesse, can we start
This
with
is
you?
the 5 now?
Thoughts about just reaction to the shooting, and then
Now, Jesse is going to give a common answer for Republicans. He's going to throw a bunch of data at you, just like Ben Shapiro did. Ben Shapiro touched this also. Threw a bunch of data. Here's a bunch of data points that just make no one feel better and make themselves feel righteous and don't address the problem at all.
this immediate call for legislation.
At first, my heart goes out to the victim's family. Colorado
Boo.
just abolished the death penalty literally last year. So unfortunately, this guy's going to have to be paid for to be taken care of by the taxpayers there for the rest of his life. And
See, this is what I meant. I wanted you to see this compared to Biden. This is what it compared to Biden. This guy's just being a jerk. You should just kill him. That'll take care of it. That's what I talk about when I discuss the idea of a justice versus a punishment system. We don't have a justice system. We have a punishment system. And this guy's like, yeah, Jesse, get him. Just like, get him, kill him. That'll solve the problem. Those 10 people don't come back. This doesn't fix the problem. That guy doesn't care if he gets killed. Half of these guys who are out there shooting up the world don't care if they get martyred. They usually just run out of ammunition before they get caught, or they get tackled or something. They don't care if they die. That's not the point. You solve nothing with that. It's unnecessary, silly. It's tone-deaf rhetoric that just is red meat for people who don't care.
won't be fried in the chair like he deserves. The media has had a really bad week covering death. First, you saw the spa shooter who used a handgun. That media narrative was that he was a white supremacist on an anti-Asian rampage, until the facts came out that he was actually a mentally ill sex addict targeting women more than he was targeting Asians. Now you have a Muslim alleged Trump hater, probably mentally ill.
Wow. Wow. I got to tell you this. This is the bad part, right? Where all he's going to do is he's just throwing red meat to his base. He haven't solved the problem. He hasn't even brought up the problem. Nothing. He's just throwing red meat out. She asked you about this issue. 10 people are dead. Do something.
Still guy using an AR, the media narrative is gun control. Then last 3 days in Chicago, you had 30 people shot.
So now he goes to whataboutism. Well, Chicago's bad. I got it. 10 people are dead, man. 10 people are dead. And you know what? As bad as Chicago is, and it is bad, there's no doubt it is, Chicago's also because of government. It's not because black people are bad or whatever the issues you want to say. It's because the government's bad. The government has infiltrated the Chicago gang so well with the war on drugs that now, instead of having one border between two gangs and one border war, there are now, everyone's broken up. No one trusts everybody. So now, instead of having two large crime families, you basically have 300 small crime families, and therefore 300 borders, and therefore 300 border wars. That's what's wound up happening. Legalize drugs and the war on drugs. Violence goes away 30 days. I'm not even joking. Violence goes away in 30 days. Just do that. Let's go away. But violence is severely diminished in 30 days. He doesn't bring that up. He just uses it as whataboutism. He doesn't want to fix that problem. He wants to keep that as a way of saying, see, that's not that bad because Chicago.
Mostly black on black. The media narrative is there. It's nothing. There is no narrative because they've blacked that out. So you can see how the press exploits these tragic stories, disregards the fact, divides us by race in order to basically control us and get profit from that. I don't think Biden's going to do anything.
But you're not doing any of that, are you?
Orders on this.
Stop.
Supreme Court will knock it down. The next Republican president will knock it down. The Republicans will come out like a wave you've never seen before if he does something.
I don't know why you believe that. This is just, why do you believe that? If you look across this country now, afraid Americans want lockdowns. Afraid Americans want gun control. Afraid Americans want to be controlled. For you to think that if he puts more gun control down, Republicans will come rushing out, I didn't see that in New York. I see the reverse. I didn't see that in New York. I don't think so at all. I think you're fooling yourself, my friend. Or you're just talking trash because you're just keeping your base hot and trying to make money and divide us like you just said, or you're being hypocritical. One of those two things are true.
Something like that. They don't have the votes in the Senate to do anything like banning sport weapons. And this is what this is. This is an AR-15. It's used for self-defense. It's used for hunting. It's used for target practice and competitions. It's light. It's easy to handle. It's compact. You squeeze the trigger once and one round goes off, just like a handgun. Squeeze
That's
the trigger
true.
once, one
He's
round
right.
goes off. Except handguns, those are used in the majority of mass shootings. Handguns are used in the majority of gun homicides.
Yep.
Media doesn't talk about that. The media is obsessed for some reason over AR-15s.
Do you understand what's happening here, though? He's just going media bad, left bad. He's not saying, here's how you fix it. Here's what we can do. Here's how to make things better.
Just because they look scary and it shows how illiterate they are. Every time this happens, Dana, they say, well, we have to do something, even though that something wouldn't have prevented any of this.
Yes. And if you know that every time this happens, as you say so intelligently, hey, every time it happens, they're going to say, let's do something. Where's your something? Where's your something? You don't have anything. And you haven't had anything for 20 years. So what do? They go to the people who have the bad ideas because they've got some ideas. So if you give them no ideas or bad ideas, afraid people take bad idea. You should know that already.
It's just a really childish argument. I want to do something too, but I want to get it right first and not
No, you don't.
destroy the constitutional rights of law-abiding Americans.
Well, that's
in the
true. He's right.
process.
That's true.
Okay,
Yes,
Juan, so let's get your take
that's
on
correct.
that.
Now watch Juan go.
Well, then I'm just listening to Jesse, and I think the Supreme Court has affirmed that everyone has a Second Amendment right, but
Big butt on him.
localities and states, everybody also has a right to impose reasonable restrictions on gun.
Ooh, nice. He didn't say common sense. He said reasonable. Better wording. Juan, nicely done. Good wording. I was waiting for common sense because every time it's common sense, it's gun control. And by the way, if you want to know what common sense means, it means as far as we can push it today. Keep pushing. Yes.
Ownership in this country. So there's no contradiction, between owning a gun and reasonable rules on who has a gun and even how people obtain a gun. But the extremist, it's just so
What's the extremist?
heartbreaking to me that we are still having this conversation. Children die in Newtown, high schoolers in Parkland, college students at Virginia Tech, and we just have this.
All school shootings, right? And I will cover school shootings after this and explain. I already talked about how to fix this. I've discussed this more than once because every time it comes up, I start saying how to fix it. And of course, look, people don't want to listen. It's fine. Go Democrat, go Republican. You get either no answers or bad answers. That's what you wind up getting.
Same conversation, because the extremists in this conversation say, oh, no to universal background checks. It's like 90% of Americans, including gun owners, say, yeah, let's have universal.
So I want to be clear on 2 points. One, I'm going to give Juan credit. It's true. Most people are totally fine with background checks. That's accurate. And that's been consistent, for a long time. Most people are okay with background checks. That's true. But the fact that if you don't like background checks, that you're an extremist, I'm not sure I'll go there, because the problem with the background check is that means if you're a felon, you can't have a gun, right? And people might go, well, that's a good thing, right? No, you're a felon. Well, you're out of prison now. You shouldn't have a gun in prison. I'm with you on that, right? In prison, no gun. But once you get out, don't you have a right to protect your family? Don't you have a right to protect yourself? Don't you get all your rights back once you've served your time? If you commit a crime, you pay your price, and then you're out. And once you're out, shouldn't you be able to get all your rights back? See, the problem is once you start doing background checks, then you get listing and everyone's on lists. That's the problem. Am I in theory against background checks? Not at all. In practice so far, terribly bad. They have not worked well at all. So that's my concern.
Background checks. Let's have a waiting period for gun purchases. Let's have red flag law.
See, waiting periods are also not crazy. I'm not going to fight over waiting period. I'm not. I remember there was a Simpson cartoon, a Simpsons show once where Homer wants to go buy a gun. And he walks in and says, I want to buy a gun. Here's the money. And the guy says, great. You come back in 7 days. He goes, 7 days, but I'm mad now. That was a joke, but there's some truth to that. So I'm actually okay if you want to have a reasonable day or two or whatever. I'm not going to cry over that. That's a place where I'm prepared to bend. Red flag laws, no evidence that red flag laws work at all. In fact, the reverse. The reverse. Once you have red flag laws, you make more and more lists. You make more and more people not do it. You make more people now liable if something goes wrong. All red flag laws do is they make more people criminals, and they keep and they force people to turn in their friends and family. While I'm okay, and I'll bend on a waiting period. I'll bend on that. I will not bend on red flag laws at all. Not bending on red flag laws. They don't work. They don't make things better. I'm pretty sure that lots of states where they have shootings actually have red flag laws already. In fact, New York State wants to put red flag laws in, and we haven't had a mass shooting. So what's the reason? I don't even get it. So no, I'll bend on the waiting period. I'll bend on that. I'm not prepared to bend on red flag laws. And I got to have a deep conversation on background checks.
So we know who's mentally ill, who's involved with spousal abuse, who's a convicted felon. Let's just do things.
He went right down that road. Right down that road. Convicted felons. Yep, right down that road. Absolutely.
Within the parameters of the fact that we are a country that affirms gun ownership as a right. That's all that President Biden and the Democrats are asking for.
That's not true at all. That's not true at all. When you make education a right or healthcare a right, if you do that in New York State, education is a right, you don't do it right, you get sued all the time. How come people aren't suing to get their gun rights? No, that's absolutely not true at all. That's not true, Juan, at all.
And to, belittle it, to caricature it, I think is not about partisan politics. You're going after the American people here, and you're going after people who have been, all of us are in danger from these kind of, from the fact that the country's awash in guns and it gets into the hands of irresponsible people.
Okay, so it's another point of view.
Irresponsible people who I guess would follow the laws. Anyway.
You and Kennedy, let's get your thoughts on this today.
Well, there are a couple things here. It's interesting that Juan is talking about using mental illness, which, if you're saying that the blanket term mental illness will be the metric by which you ban people from owning guns.
How do you deal with that too?
Only further stigmatizes mental illness. And that means, if you have a single mom in a big city who has been.
No, you went down the wrong road on this one, Kennedy. You started right. Once you say mental illness, what does that mean? Does that mean depressed? Does that mean you have a prescription? Who defines mental illness and how? And if I have a mental illness, does that mean I can't defend myself anymore? Now, if you're saying someone who's mentally ill to a point where they, have to be, or voluntarily are, or forcibly because they're violent or hurting others, hurting themselves, that they are institutionalized, I'm with you. If that's the line, you get institutionalized, no gun. I'm with you on that. If that's your line. My worry is now all of a sudden the average gun shop owner or whomever is now going to be looking at somebody's mental history, their medical history. Is that what I want? Or did I just get a no-go from the government? And now I got to fight the government to decide if they think I'm crazy or not, or whatever their answer is to that. Another concern. That's why I'm saying background checks. I got to have a deep conversation before I would even say yes to that. There's so many ways that you could absolutely, break that. That's a problem.
And treated for mental illness, maybe anxiety or depression, who wants to defend herself. Maybe she's not going to seek treatment because she doesn't want to be put on some kind of a list where she.
There we go. Now she's rocking on. That's exactly right. So now you got a single mom in a poor neighborhood, needs that firearm as an equalizer in case someone's going to mess with her or her family. Maybe her husband's gone or her family's not around, or insert reason here, whatever it is. Maybe she has an abuser and she's afraid the abuser's going to come and take her kids from her or beat her up, or who knows what issues she has. And in that kind of world, you might want to go on some kind of drug too. You might get some depression drugs if you're in that situation. You might too. Can she not have it because she might hurt somebody?
To own a firearm in order to defend her family. Maybe you have someone who is truly deeply mentally ill, who now sees that this entire condition has been stigmatized, who doesn't go for treatment. And this is what we see over and over again with these shootings.
You actually see this. She's right. You see this in New York State. You see it in New York State. You see veterans now with the SAFE Act and red flag laws not getting help. This does actually happen. This isn't theoretical. This actually does happen.
It is a sociopathy. It is a mental illness. It is the isolation. It is the hate. And somehow
it's not hate and sociopathy. That part it's not. But she's totally right. It's mental illness. That's true. 100%.
We're not identifying those things in an effective way so people actually get treatment. And I think part of that is because of the stigma. Now, in places like Portland, Oregon, you have a city that has been under siege, a DA who won't prosecute violent crimes.
Oh, don't do the whataboutism. Guys, she was right. She had no answer, but she was right. Now, look at what happened from the left and the right? Juan is clearly on the left. The other guy, I've actually forgotten his name, sorry, is clearly on the right. She's much more libertarian on that side. Probably looks like she's leaning right. But the left guy sounded nice. He had an answer. I hate his answer. I think he's wrong, but he sounded nice. He did. He sounded like he cared. He talked about protection and people like that. And the other two used some serious issues, which are right, some problems with it, but basically threw out data and whataboutism. Well, if I'm afraid, I don't want to hear data. I don't want to hear whataboutism. I want to hear an answer. And the only one who had an answer on this right here was Juan.
Criminals, so people feel that, you know, in a city where police are absolutely hated and they talk about defunding and police are racist, then people feel they have no other choice than to get a firearm to defend themselves, because those sort of riots have been spreading out in.
Now you went to riots. Anyway, I hope that was clear in what I was trying to get across. Neither side, this opened up in my eyes. It showed that both sides would take the death of 10 people and 8 the other day. So 18 people in a week, and they would just use it to push their own agendas or to attack the other. Neither of them actually had an answer at all. Ben Shapiro was on this doing the same stuff, just going, here's the data points and Democrats are bad, and no answers. The reality of this guy was a 21-year-old Muslim from Syria. He came when he was a kid, like 2 or 3 years old. So he's born and raised in America, teased as a child, lonely, stuck at home, no purpose, no community. And I think he actually has mental illness. I think he actually snapped. He snapped and went out and hurt people. And now our answer is put him in jail forever or kill him. What about those people? Let me grab some comments. You guys have a lot of comments. I want to cover some of those. People ask me, what should we do? I'll give you tons of things that we should do. Number one, I don't want us to have so many soft targets. I say all the time, and this actually happened, right? People were saying, well, there's school shootings, so we have to deal with school shootings. So let's deal with school shootings. And I said, you can fix school shootings, but the problem is once you stop the school shootings, they're going to shoot up someplace else. It isn't the school. They only go to the school because it's a soft target, because they know there are enemies there that they can shoot. It's a soft target, right? So my whole plan if you remember, dealing with school shooting was a very simple issue. No extra laws, no extra money. The actual way of handling school shootings is very simple. If you are either an administrator or a teacher in a public school and you are licensed to carry a firearm, if you want to, you may. That's it. That's the rule. If you are licensed to carry a firearm, you're an administrator or teacher, and you want to, you may. That's it. No requirement, no orders, nothing. If you don't want to bring your gun to school, don't. No worries. You may. You will not be prosecuted in any way, for no matter where you live, no matter what your other rules are, you may. That's it. What does that mean? That means that now when some school shooter comes in, they won't know who to shoot. They won't know if anyone's armed. They won't know. They can't plan. The one thing you found in every single school shooting was a plan. Why? Because they knew who was what, who was where. They knew how things worked. In fact, the kids right now, this is the funniest part. They're doing school drills. Well, they were before COVID. Some places still are. School shooting drills. Well, who's in the drills? The kids who would be a school shooter. So they're literally watching what you're going to do, and they know where you're going to hide because you're telling them where to hide. So that's not going to work, is it? That's pretty stupid, isn't it? But that's what we're doing. So, we'll have a resource officer outside. That's expensive. And then what will they do? They'll shoot him first. Why? Because they know where he is, because they're in school. So they shoot him first and then kill everybody. Doesn't make any sense. But if they don't know who's armed, maybe nobody's armed. Not required. Maybe not one administrator. Maybe not one teacher has a firearm. Maybe not one. And maybe all of them do. And maybe a couple do. You've just made a school a non-soft target. But if you remember what I said, back in 2018, I was talking about this. 2017, I was talking about this. I said, but if you do that, that's awesome. However, now the people will still go someplace else. They just won't pick schools as targets. What did they start picking? Churches. They thought those were soft targets. Now in South Carolina, that was true. In Texas, that wasn't. He thought it was a soft target. He was wrong. And he got shot. Remember that? Yeah. And now because schools are closed in many areas, and also some schools are prepared now, they're not soft targets anymore, they find other areas, like massage parlors. And here, shopping malls. They find other areas. They look for soft targets. So on a defensive make less soft targets. A soft target is something where they can easily plan to hurt people without any realistic chance of return fire immediately. That's a soft target. Change that. Now, that's not enough, obviously. That just stops the soft target, because then what they'll do is they'll just using other things. They'll use bombs, or they'll use cars. In New York City, they use vans. I'm not joking. This is 3 years ago. Guy took a van and ran people down a bike path, killed them all. Like 8 people, whatever it was. I forgot what the number it was. Took a van and just ran over bicyclists. Ran them over. You're going to ban vans now? Is that the next thing to do? You can't. The next part is getting people to be happier. Well, the first thing you want to do is not lock us down. But Larry, people might get COVID. Yes, they might get COVID. It's possible. So let's start acting smartly and dealing with those issues and preparing ourselves. I talked about it again a year ago. I gave us an answer on how to deal with COVID smartly, making sure we protect our vulnerable and still don't shut our economy and our lives down. And I warned you literally a year ago, March. It's on my Sharpe Way YouTube page. I did all the videos. I warned you this would happen. I said you will see an exacerbation of mental illness and people will strike out. They will act self-destructive. Seeing it now. I said after the election there'll be even more sporadic violence, and you're seeing it now. I spoke about all this stuff, and it's all there if you care. Let me grab some comments if I can. All right. Let's see here. He's watching in Colorado, and the news say they found an AR-15. Again, it was an AR-556 pistol, if that makes sense. Yes. So let's see if I can find this. The young man from Boulder posted constantly about not being able to find a girlfriend. Bingo. Bingo. Yes. If we're going to have a universal plan, make it a universal partner plan. Let's make a universal Tinder plan or something. I don't know. Let's do that, right? Again, some of you may laugh at the girlfriend thing, but you know what a girlfriend does? I mean, boyfriend. I mean, but whatever. In this case, it's girlfriend in this case, but whatever. Girlfriend, boyfriend, a relationship. It creates connection. It ends loneliness. It gives somebody purpose. And if the girlfriend has more friends than you, it might even give you community. I mean, who knows, right? You losing those 3, you're going to do something bad, either to yourself or to others or both. So, yes. Brian says, Iowa's on the verge of passing constitutional carry. Of course, the Dems are up in arms about it. I asked for the data from the 17 states that already have this, which shows all the bad things that have happened due to constitutional carry being illegal. The crickets are the only thing that I've answered. Yeah, exactly. Right. The fact that you decide that we're going to allow people to carry firearms doesn't mean all of a sudden now it's the Wild West. People are dying. It's simply not accurate. That is an idea that sounds good. And when you're afraid, it sounds even better. But again, we don't want that to be the case. Matt says eHarmony ends gun violence. Let's get it, man. Right? Instead of background checks, let's take up a GoFundMe to pay for eHarmony accounts for everybody online who's complaining about not finding a partner. Let's do that instead. It would be more effective. Literally, it would be more effective, Matt, if we did that. Your state's having problems? Get them all in eHarmony. It would be actually more effective. So if I could, let me talk about online. I want you guys to do me a favor. You know I care about this. Take care of my sponsors, please. It's free. Click this link right here, which is actually in the description. Click that link. Head on over to theadvocates.org. Go to the censorship and free speech survey. Take that survey. It's free. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to complete. Please complete the entire thing. And when you're done, please share it on social media, whether that's Twitter, share it on Facebook, whatever's appropriate. Please share it, take it, complete it. Why? Because they're my sponsors. They want to know what's going on, how you feel about this, and they want their name out there. So please do me a favor. Do this. They are my sponsor. It's free. If you're like, well, Larry, I don't have time. I got money, though. Great. You got Biden bucks? No worries. Patreon.com/Sharpeway. Throw me a couple bucks. Throw me $10. If you like what I'm doing, you want me to keep doing this and keep, putting this out every single day. Support the team that helps make this happen. $10 a month, $25 a month, whatever you got. You got big Biden bucks, throw it at me, whatever you like. I'm happy to do that. You say, Larry, I can't give you my Biden bucks. I got to pay my rent. I can't do it. No worries. You can just like, comment, and share. That's free too, and even shorter than the test. The more you like, the more you comment, the more you share, the more people notice it, the more we begin to grow. If you do up to 5 or 10 minutes and you don't want to pay the money, no worries. Censorship and free speech survey. Click that link, complete the entire survey, and share it. And you're helping me out tremendously. Thank you for all your support. I appreciate it. Let me grab a couple more comments if I could. So, all right. You have a brain not like the shooters. Not sure where that's going. Was that at me? I don't know. Maybe. Okay. Joey says, if I lived there, I'd vote for you. Thank you, Joey. I appreciate that. Yes. Myron says, I support Larry's universal girlfriend plan. There we go. If you're going to be a tyrant, then at least get everybody girlfriends and boyfriends, right? Look, if you're going to be authoritarian, do it right at least. See? I love that. I would go one step further, though. And this may sound crazy. It may sound like it makes no sense, but it makes sense in both of the last shootings. Why don't we just decriminalize sex work? I'm not joking. Take the stigma away from sex work. One of the reasons why the guy shot everybody up in Atlanta is he was all worried about his sexual hangups and stuff. Well, should have taken his Biden bucks and gotten a cuddle friend. And I'm not joking when I say cuddle friend. That's some sex workers are cuddlers. That's a real thing that actually exists. So maybe they should have some cuddlers. See that? Yeah, you pay the whatever the money is for going rate for cuddlers, whatever that is. I'm sure it's really in need now with the COVID lockdowns, and you get somebody to cuddle with you. Maybe you don't shoot people. I like that. Decriminalize sex work. And then maybe if you feel not feeling like a man or whatever, and you're feeling like, you're weak, whatever, you get the woman who's the make you feel like a man sex worker, whatever that plan is. Get it online, feel like a man. You don't shoot anybody. All good. Just don't shoot people. There we go. How about that? I'm with you, Myron. Let's do that. I'm giving you actual answers, right? That aren't just shoot the guy, put him in jail, put more guns on the streets. You can put more guns on the streets or less guns on the streets. That won't stop the violence. That might stop violence in that area. Sure, but it's going to go someplace else. So let's get people to have some purpose. How about that instead? How about we allow people to have their own jobs? How about to own their own careers? How about we give them more hope in school? All those things. That's the deal. So Chelsea says, any conversation about reducing gun violence that doesn't focus on restricting arms ownership for those most likely to commit mass murder, the government, I like that, Chelsea, it's not a serious conversation. So so maybe we should have every government have a background check. I don't know. I think every government would fail that. That sociopathy thing, that's government work right there. I like that. Nicely done, Chelsea. Nicely done. Chris says, getting picked on in school is one problem. The schools don't do anything about bullying. Also true, Chris. This is another point, right? If you remember my school plan for New York State, I talked about the idea of ending the sit-down schools at K-10, at 10th grade. It was K through 10 plan versus K through 12. And at 10th grade, once you finish 10th grade, take a test, you pass it, you're done. Off you go, you are finished. Now what do? In New York State, education is a right. It's in our Constitution. I know not every state has that, but ours does. So I said, great, we have to pay for 2 years of high school. We have to pay for it. That's in our Constitution. We must pay for grades 1 through 12, and the state must pay for that. That's in our Constitution. So, okay, fine. I'm going to give you a GI Bill. You get a flat amount of money. You got 5 years to use it. Go to a 2-year school, whatever school you want to go to. You want to go to trade school. You want to get a job. You want to go work. You want to go to prep school. You want to go to college. Go. Do what you got to do. Make some decisions now. What starts happening now at age 14, 15? Kids start thinking, what's my next step? What should I be doing? And then they're all picking all their own high schools. Once they start picking their own high schools to go to, where's the bullying going to go? Right? Bullying happens in school when it's the jock versus the smart kid or whatever is the power dynamic that works in any given school, right? That's the classic thing, obviously. The nerd and the jock is the classic. But there's all different types of bullying back and forth. Well, what happens when they're all nerds? Or they're all jocks? Or they're all whatever? They all have the same purpose. You give a teenager purpose, he doesn't want to go kill people. He's got a purpose. He's got to be to work. Or he's got to go do the project with all his Star Trek friends or whatever, right? He's got to go do that. That will change it. That will change it. Absolutely. And I know the problem with the bullying, how it works is bullying, you can't defend yourself. So if you defend yourself, you get in trouble. And those of you who have kids in school know this. If your kid gets bullied and your kid defends themselves, that kid gets in trouble for defending themselves. What they were supposed to do is go tell a teacher or tell an administrator. I'm not joking. Happened to me. My own daughter defended herself against a bully. They brought me in and they said, we're considering, we're lucky, we'll be nice to you because we're considering suspending your daughter, but we're not going to. True story. I said, suspend her. What do I care? Suspend her. Well, it's on a record. I don't care. Your record means nothing. I don't care. No one looks at a record. Records mean zero. Nobody looks at that. No one's it is in a job going, wait a minute, you were suspended in 8th grade. I can't hire you. No one ever says that. Their records mean nothing. I don't care about suspend her 18 times. What do I care? No one's ever going to see that ever. I don't care. I'd rather her learn to defend herself, a real lesson, than wait for you people who won't be able to handle it, who will just make her more dependent upon you, who will make her a victim her entire life. No, thank you. I'll pass. Suspend her. And in fact, suspend her twice for 9 days. I'll take her on a vacation to reward her. Your system means nothing. It's useless. And I know that sounds horrible. It's just true. Nobody cares. Except they do, I guess, because they're shaking their fist at you. What they're trying to achieve is to make sure you don't defend yourself. And that's what's happening now in schools. And since the schools can't do a good job of doing it, they don't. Now the person who's picked on actually begins to feel helpless. That's what actually happens. The person being picked on begins to feel helpless because the powers that be that they're supposed to help them cannot help them. And then they can't defend themselves or they get in trouble. And then the people around them start laughing at them and teasing them even more. It doesn't stop. So now they begin to feel helpless. But what happens when you start to feel hopeless and helpless? You become self-destructive. That's how humans work. So, Chris, you are correct. Absolutely. Alexander says, when people aren't productive with their lives, it leads to trouble. Yes, 100%. What's that old saying is it from the Bible? Or maybe it may be from other, it's probably not from the Bible. It's a reference from a book, and I've forgotten what book it's a reference from. Idle hands is the devil's playground. Am I getting the quote right? It's not the Bible. I'm sorry. It's a religious book. I've forgotten which one it is. So yes. All righty. Brian says, by the way, almost all things Biden suggests there are already laws in place in Colorado. Yeah. But if it's federal, that's magical, Brian, because once it's a federal law, then people stop doing bad stuff. That's how it works. Federal law, we just magically stop. No, it doesn't matter. They don't care. They don't care. Do you think when that guy was out there shooting, he thought, I'll just shoot these people, then I'll come back and sit at my computer and my life will go on as normal? Do you think any of them thought that? None of them did. They all knew that either they were going to die that day or they were going to go to jail that day. They knew one of those two things was going to happen, or maybe the hospital, right? So they were either going to go to the morgue, to the hospital, or jail. They all knew that. So it wasn't like they were like, you know what? I'll go out, I'll shoot these 8 people, then I'll head back and have a burrito and play some Fortnite. They didn't think that. So it doesn't matter. Yes. Andrew says there are no honest brokers left on gun control. Ooh. That's a good one, Andrew. I think you're right on that, because they're not actually trying to solve a problem. They're trying to push a narrative or virtue signal. I think you may be right on that. Yeah. They don't believe their own rhetoric or care about statistics. At this point, I'm inclined to believe they don't even care about the victims. This is one of the reasons why I brought up Joe Biden, right? I do believe he cares. And I just want to give him credit for that. Joe's good with that. He is. He does have empathy. He does understand pain. He does get it. So, yeah, I want to give him that. But I think you're right. Does he actually care about solving the problem? Sadly, I'm unsure. I don't know. Joe Biden's a get-along guy. He's a get-along guy. What is this what we need? Okay, this keeps us in power? Yeah, let's do that. I think that's what he is. So, yeah. All right. No girlfriend, maybe Big Richard Daddy from Cincinnati has the right answer. Whatever works, man. Whatever works. I'm all good. Yes. John says, how do we get our message to the ruling class? They are totally disconnected. They have had their narrative and they push it without caring to learn about the real problems. This is like the question. And I even have to worry about the premise of the question. John, is it that we want to get our message to the ruling class, or do we want to change the ruling class? Now, I think there are two parts to this. This is my view. If you think I'm off, I'm happy to hear that I'm off. I think most of the ruling class actually doesn't care. They just like being part of the ruling class, and they like where they are, right? That's what I like, right? That's what I like. I think they just kind of want to be their people in charge. Now, why do I say I like that? Because that means they're probably malleable. That means that if things change, they'll change because they want to stay in power. Now, some actually don't care. I mean, some actually are aggressively trying to care and hurt. You're right. Those who have to be removed. I hope through just voting. Vote enough people out, put the right people in, and the rest of the ruling class will, I think, be better. That's what I think. Their narrative is what will keep them in power. I think that's what most of them care about. So, yes. All right. AR pistol is everything except SBR is everything except in name. Yeah. But the problem is if you write a law, the law is going to be very specific. And if it says rifle, then that's not covered. That makes any sense, right? If it expresses what a rifle is and it will give a definition, it'll be a vaguer definition, but it wouldn't affect it. So look, anyone who knows guns knows the pistol can be just as effective, if not more effective than a rifle, particularly at short range. I mean, we all know this. Shotgun can be effective, right? It depends on what kind of shotgun you're using, obviously, right? And what kind of, and how are you going to modify your pistol? You can basically make your pistol a rifle with modifications, right? And people who understand guns know that. But people who don't understand guns, like people in Congress, don't know that. So the odds are they're going to make a law that's going to make things just random and ineffective, right? Either way, whatever the case may be. So Joe in Florida says, both Republican senators in Florida are gun grabbers. Well, there we go. Yes, absolutely. So AR with a short barrel pistol, because with this one screw, I will turn a firearm into a felony. Exactly my point, Linda. Thank you. Exactly my point. Yes. That if you know guns, you can make a pistol a rifle. In fact, you could, some pistols, you could even make a machine gun. I mean, you could, depending on what you can do with it. That would be illegal, I'm sure. But you could turn it, not every pistol. But there are many pistols you could actually turn into a machine gun. Absolutely. Yes. So, all right. Let's see if I can grab a couple more of these. We already have background checks. Bad guys get guns if they want to get guns. Also true. Good point. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Biden bombed Syria and then lectures to citizens about violence. And the person who did this was Syrian, a refugee from Syria. Yeah. Weird how that works. Weird how less violent people coming from other countries, if we don't make refugees with our terrible foreign policy, you'll have less of them. Yep, absolutely. Anti-firearm ownership laws help grow the black market, firearm market. Laws are for lawful people. No, it's a valid point. You see it again. This is in New York already. The SAFE Act increased the black market, and red flag laws increased the black market. Now it's a bigger black market. The black market probably is biggest for ammunition, I think, right now in New York than it is firearms. There's a black market for that too, but I think it's more for ammunition in New York State. I'm not sure how your state is, Joe, but I think in my state, ammunition is a bigger black market for that than anything else. So, is there a plan once they get rid of the evil assault weapons, they go for the handguns and everything else? I actually don't think, I think the plan isn't to actually go in, knock on doors, and grab guns. That's not the plan at all. I don't think that's the plan at all. I think the plan is to make gun ownership two things: hard to do so that less people will go through the motions, and then it will seem like everybody's crazy, that you wouldn't want to have one because you're nuts. If you ever notice, whenever someone has, gets arrested and has firearms, you might have, for example, you have 3 pistols and 300 rounds. That's what you got. 3 pistols and 300 rounds. That's what they find. How are they going to report that? They're going to say he has 3 pistols and he has 300 rounds. No, he has an arsenal. He has a stockpile. That's how they're going to use it. They're going to say arsenal, stockpile, cache. Those are always the 3 words they'll use. Either stockpile or arsenal or cache. And hundreds of rounds, right? That's what they're going to say. So again, you had 3 pistols, 300 rounds. He had a stockpile of weapons and hundreds of rounds. So wow, your guy must be crazy, ready to go to war and kill everybody. That is how it works. And eventually people start saying, do I want to own a gun? Now, COVID actually backfired, though. When it came to COVID, what Kennedy was saying was correct. When it came to the COVID lockdown, bad things happened. People went on the streets fighting, violence. You saw it with the riots in the summer. You saw it with the protests in the summer. You saw it, and a lot of people started buying weapons. So it kind of backfired, but they probably didn't realize that. So, Larry, what is the libertarian response to fast and loose firearms access to mentally challenged citizens? I don't think there is right now a fast and loose world right now. I don't think there is. The reality of it is, if you're mentally challenged, that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't have a firearm. It doesn't mean you should either. I think you should have the same test as anybody else. Whatever is your test to have a firearm, it shouldn't change. Let's say, for example, your IQ is, say, under 70. If I'm not mistaken, the government says that means you're challenged mentally. I think that's correct. There's a number. I forgot the number. I think it's 70. It might be 60. But whatever that number is. So the government then will say you are mentally challenged. Does that mean you can't defend yourself now? I get it. If you're institutionalized, no weapon. I'm with you. If you're institutionalized, no firearm. But if you're out living your life, if you're at work, if you're buying food, if you are surviving on your own in whatever way you are, what if you're on the autism spectrum? So you have maybe an empathy issue or connection issue back and forth with people. You don't communicate in a way that most people would accept or understand. Should you now not have a firearm? Should you not be able to defend yourself? I would feel like in those specific cases, you actually would be more vulnerable, and maybe you'd want a firearm. I don't know. But the point is, how does government decide that? And there's my issue, right? I would much rather, if you are so mentally challenged that you become either a ward of the state or someone else is your ward, right? Because you are that mentally challenged or that mentally disabled, that you are a ward of someone else, then I could see that being a rule, no firearm. Because someone else has to be your ward. Okay, I'll buy that. But otherwise, how do I decide? Is the issue everyone who's going around killing people, are they all mentally challenged? I would argue that even those who are mentally challenged, if they have purpose, if they have community, if they have, the things that are required to be happy, they tend to move forward. And here is my example of this. Kennedy mentioned sociopathy or psychopathy, which means you are a sociopath, right? Give or take I think about 2% of our population is sociopathic, something like that. If you're a sociopath, you have no empathy for people, right? Which is why if you ever see sociopathic killers, they often dismember the bodies of their victims. Why? They don't have any empathy. They have no feeling for the person. It's like a chair to them. They don't care, right? But here's a fact, and if you think I'm making this up, you can do your own homework on this. If you raise a sociopathic child with violence, that kid's going to jail. That's how it's working. That kid's going to jail. It's almost a formula. Sociopathy with violence, kid's going to jail. Doesn't matter what law you have, doesn't matter what you do. The kid is learning that violence is the appropriate answer to solve problems. That kid is going to be violent. That kid is going to jail. That's how that works. Reverse, a sociopathic kid, meaning a kid who has no empathy, cannot connect with other people. You raise that kid with lots of love. That kid will act like they love. Even though they can't physically love. If you're a sociopath, you cannot love. It is impossible for you to physically love. But you'll act like you love. Why? because you were trained. That's what humans do. So you'll do nice things and you'll function in society fine. You won't be a killer or a murderer. You won't be anything by that because you were taught that that's not what you do. And you were brought up, raised that way. So if you're mentally challenged or mentally disabled, any of those things, if you're raised in a healthy, loving environment, why would you shoot somebody? If a sociopath wouldn't do it, why would someone who's on the spectrum do it? All those things. So my answer would be treat everyone the same when it comes to getting firearms. If you are a ward of the state, you should not have a firearm because you are someone else's ward. You're unable, for whatever reason, to make decisions for yourself. Okay, that's it. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about it. I don't see a huge problem with this because the other issue is those kids, was it Parkland? I forgot which shooting it was now. They went and just got other people's weapons. And someone else even had pipe bombs ready. So I think the firearm piece is not the issue, if that makes any sense. I know I went long on that, Mike. I'm sorry, but it's an important question. And I hope I at least gave you a real answer. I hope I did. So, all right. Frank says, I'm missing the entire point. Okay. They want to use this awful incident as justification to take away more of our freedoms. That's the Big Brother way. I think I'm on point with you, Frank. I think you're right. They're just trying to, keep moving their agenda forward. I think so. Yes, I think so. So, Jimmy says, yeah, Biden shall not be infringed. Sadly, Jimmy, most Americans, when they're afraid, they think the Constitution is just a suggestion. I wish they didn't think that, but they do. Jacob, what solution to the happiness problem? I was mentioning it, right? Schooling that allows kids to go off and start having hope off the bat, that gets them to want to do the right thing, that gets them to care about their life and their future, right? An open environment that allows people to just try to find happiness to the best of their ability. Ending unnecessary laws and licensures licensing so that people can go out and try to work and create what they want to create. It's creating a freer society so that people want to get out there and get things done. When you give people purpose, when you give them community, when they're not lonely, you see people start to not want to hurt people. It's how I worked. It's how it works. Susan says, what I liked about the news on the Colorado News Report is that it did not focus on the suspect, but it focused on the cop. And now that's 7 kids and a wife who will never see him again. That's important. Yes, Susan. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely true. Yes, 100%. How many lives might it save if someone fired back? I think you have an example of that. You have a direct example of that, right? And that is trying to hit the soft targets. The one kid who picked a soft target in South Carolina and killed, what was it? 8. The white kid who went into the black church, did he kill 8 or something like that? It was like that number. And then the other guy who goes to Texas church fires once and then takes a round and dies because the guy had a gun. So I would say 8-1 would be my number. That would be 8-1 or whatever. I think it was 8 people, whatever that number amount was. That's what I would say would be the amount saved. So if 10 people, I would say he would have got 1 and not 10. That'd be my answer, Lyndon. That's my answer. So yes. All right. Let's see if I can do this. It's heartbreaking that so many lives were lost, and there's another opportunity to push gun control bills. From compassion to sales pitch in one word. Wow. Look at that. Christine says, lockdowns, afraid Americans. Yes, absolutely. 100%. Afraid Americans. Absolutely. We wish we could shut Chucky up. Cannot stand him. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a fan. I would agree. I'm not. He's all about yapping, and he'll shut your free speech down. In fact, speaking of that, since you brought that up, guys, head over, take the censorship and free speech survey. I know I said it once before, but I'll say it again. It matters. It's my sponsor. They care. I care. It's theadvocates.org. Click that link that's in the description. Take that survey. It's 3 to 5 minutes. That's it. Done. Complete the entire survey. Please complete it, finish it, and then share it online, either on Facebook, share it on Twitter, whatever you like. Share it so that people can see it. And hopefully they'll take it too. Get the word out. That's what people want. I want that too. Please do that. If You're saying, Larry, I don't have time for that. I got stuff to do. No worries. Throw me some money instead. We'll call it even. Head over to patreon.com/sharpeway. Throw me $10, $25, whatever you got. If you're making big Biden bucks, you got the big cash, throw me $100 a month. You got that kind of money. Do it. All good. It goes to making this show happen every single night at 7 p.m. And more importantly, keeping my social media running, because that's how I push this forward. And I am concerned that I might actually get canceled eventually, right? It happens all the time. So the last thing I'll ask you is to follow me. Follow me on Sharpe Way. Make sure you follow me on Sharpe Way Properties, not Larry Sharpe Properties, Sharpe Way Properties, Sharpe Way Twitter, Sharpe Way YouTube, Sharpe Way Facebook. Do that so that in case they hammer my Larry Sharpe side, I still got this side. It is important. So thank you. Talk about the problem, mental health issues being made worse by lockdowns. Yes, that's it. Yes, thank you, Tom. Paula says, make America not fearful again. It doesn't flow as well as MAGA. That's Manfa. Manfa. Make America not fearful again. Manfa. That's like do we need to get a red hat with that? A Manfa? People talk about it at least, I guess. So yeah. So Jim says, so what? He could done the same with a shotgun. Yes. And that's my point. All right. You could do damage with lots of weapons, whatever you think is the appropriate answer. If they would call drug use a pandemic, they would get all the Republicans on board with the drug war. Okay. Maybe that's why they're using those words. Okay. Matt says, it's difficult to build communities when leadership puts so much effort into dividing us into two opposing sides. Wow. Well done. Matt. Yes. They are making things worse. They're making it harder. That's absolutely true. Yes. Wow. Well done. Nicely said, Matt. I like that. Brandon says, Larry, he is right. You should kill the killer compared to keep him alive for 80 years on a taxpayer. And there's no way to bring back the dead. So this guy's being realistic, but I'm also right-leaning. I'm not against that concept. Let me cover a couple things on death penalty. I get where he's coming from. I do, Brandon. And I didn't lose anybody in that shooting. So I can look back from far away and point my finger and say all kind of stuff, but my loved one didn't die, right? My wife is home. So I'm accepting that that's where I'm coming from, right? That's where I'm coming from. With that in mind, if it was someone I loved, would I want him killed? Probably. I hope I wouldn't, Brand. That's what I would say. I've never had this happen to me, so I can't tell you how I would feel. I would hope that I wouldn't want him to die, that I would want to get some kind of real justice and have him help others or have him be something that would be worth something. I would hope I could be that good. I don't know if I could. So I get it if the individual wants to have him killed. But this guy didn't have any of his friends killed or his loved ones killed. He's just trying to be hardcore, kill him because of taxpayer. Now, my problem with that is I don't trust government to decide who dies. I just don't. I don't trust government to decide who dies. So I'm against death penalty. Am I in theory, and I mean theory, am I in theory okay with the death penalty? Do I believe that there might be a situation to where society might deem that the only way to keep themselves safe is to murder someone, to kill someone? In theory, yes. In practice, government's terrible at that, and it will kill too many innocent people. So if I have to decide to kill innocent people or keep him in jail for 80 years, I'll take jail 80 years. That's just me, right? If I got to choose, I would take jail for 80 years over killing innocent people. That's where I stand on that. But I get your point. And I'm being clear. If it was someone that I loved, I might be a hypocrite. Emotion from people we love often makes us hypocrites. So if it happens to me, you might hear me go, kill him. I might do that. Just telling you the truth. So Joe says, we don't have a justice system. We have a punishment system. Yes, thank you for quoting me. I appreciate that. It's very true. Absolutely. Yes. So Dana Perino always defends GWB. Anytime someone talks smack about GWB, always defends it. I get it. I mean, she worked for him. I get it. Yeah. Right? I always defend Gary Johnson. I do. I get where she's coming from. I do. I get where she's coming from. Of course I do. Yes. That's good. Let's see here. Jesse Waters, typical Republican. It's true, but look, only because he said something is why I brought it up. I'm not extra mad at him or anything. I think it's a common Republican piece, which is give data, show why the left is wrong, and then not have an answer. I'm saying show data, show why the left is wrong, then have answer. It's that last part that they don't seem to have. So now I'm some afraid American go, now what do I do? Now what do I do? And guys like Juan Williams talk nice, say I care about people. Joe Biden shows empathy. And I go, well, maybe those guys are right. They have an answer at least. And we have gun control. And we have gun control. Yes. Because Chicago is not a policy or an answer. Paula. Nicely done. Yes, exactly right. Yes, because Chicago is absolutely not an answer. Jeff says, knew that it was coming, mostly black on black, followed almost immediately by accusing Dems of dividing us by race. Pathetic how predictable both sides are. Yeah, Jeff, it is. Right? It is. That's not an answer. Right? I mean, what he's saying is accurate. I'm not saying that it isn't mostly black on black crime. That's true. That is an accurate statement. Right? But as you just heard, because Chicago, that's not a policy. Tom says violence in big cities. Why? Lockdowns equal hopelessness. Tom, nicely done. Because you guys are rocking it tonight. 100% yes. Lockdowns equals hopelessness. Yeah, that's what happens. And that happens. And then guess what happens next? Then people start becoming self-destructive. That's how that works. Absolutely. Rose says, honestly, it's the hypocrite gun owners still running around with blue line flags. Ooh, interesting. Like, please get a reel and get a grip. Stop defending oath breakers and the literal people that will come to steal your property. You know, this is an interesting, I'm glad you brought this up. It's an interesting point. You do find a lot of people who are 2A supporters also heavily support cops. I think you're right. It's true. And it is odd to me, right? Not that you should be anti-cop. I'm not anti-cop, but you're never going to see me have a Blue Lives Matter thing on my house or anything. And my father wasn't law enforcement. My father was a cop first, and he was a corrections officer. But I think the same thing. I'm on record saying this. I remember I did a debate in 2017 or 2018? 2018 during a campaign. And one of the debates, they asked the question, should someone who kills a cop get a harsher sentence? And I said, no. Everyone else said, yes, they were all pandering to cops. And I was like, no, cops are citizens just like us. And if you murder a cop, then you should get the maximum penalty that you would get for murdering anyone. The loved ones at home don't go, oh, you murdered my son, but he wasn't a cop, so I don't feel as bad. No matter what, the loved ones remaining are devastated, whether your loved one was a police officer or not, law enforcement or not. I don't see a difference. And one of the guys fought back and said, well, you know what? They put their life on the line. I said, so do Marines. Marines do too. There's not an extra punishment for, killing a Marine. Marines are human beings also, citizens like we all are. There's no special class in my eyes. So I think it's funny to say that people who love the Second Amendment, many of them, not all obviously, but many of them are really big police supporters. And it shouldn't be true. I mean, if you're out there, talking about come and take it, you probably shouldn't have the blue line flag, should you? Because those are the people who are going to come and take it. Valid point. Thank you. Yes. So, all right. Let's see if I can do this here. Isn't Fox the media? If you ask Fox, no. But yes, they absolutely are. I mean, of course, that is mainstream media. Absolutely. Yes. So, Larry, what is the next position you plan to run for so we can vote for you? Thank you, Valerie. I appreciate that. As I say all the time, and I will keep saying, I will decide in the summer. Probably August is what I think I will decide whether or not I'm running for governor or not. I will decide in August. I'll announce in August whether I will or won't be. If I won't be, I'll be telling you who I think I'm going to support. And if I will be, then it'll be me. And I'll be bugging you for a bunch of money and cash and all kind of stuff like I always do. That's what I'll be doing if I do it in August. And if I don't do that, I would consider a VP slot in 2024. The odds of running for president in 2024 are slim. People are asking me to do it. I would have to be a whole lot more popular for me to make that kind of run. I want to make real impact, and the odds are they'll be more popular and people who can raise more money than I can running for president in 2024. My assumption is that Trump is not going to be a incumbent. He might be running, but he won't be an incumbent. which means there'll be more third-party people who'll be prepared to run in that. So maybe. Hope that answers your question. So yes. All right. Do you feel, John says, do you feel the age of victimization and being offended has contributed to so many looking for the government for protection? Yes, I do. I think you've hit one piece. There was, and for those of you who don't remember this, there was a push in the 80s and the 90s that was a very well-intended push. It was a push to get kids to have more self-esteem, the self-esteem movement. And again, the goal was get kids to have more self-esteem. They'll love themselves more. They'll be more successful. They'll take more risks, all those types of things. The intention was a good intention. But the problem was they were saying you have to tell kids this, make them feel this, tell them that. That's not how self-esteem is gained. You gain self-esteem not because someone goes, John, you're awesome. That's not why. You gain it because you achieve something. And then when you achieve the thing, someone then says, John, you're awesome. You gain the self-esteem by achieving something. Generally speaking, the more challenging it is, this is not a 100% rule, but generally speaking, the more challenging it is, the more self-esteem you gain. In fact, falling down and getting back up is one of the best ways of people gaining self-esteem, for children too. The problem is they didn't do that. This is where you get the participation trophy, which is nothing but bad. And parents will get mad at me when I say it, but it is nothing but bad. You are only hurting children. And now the other thing where you go to, when I went to a birthday party when I was a kid, I would give a gift to the birthday boy or girl. I didn't get a gift. Or if I had a birthday party, I got the gifts. No one else did because it was my birthday. Now everyone has to get a gift. Everyone gets gifts. I don't know if some of you who have kids, you know this, right? You have a birthday party, everyone gets a gift. Yeah, because they don't want the kids to feel bad because they're not opening up a gift. And again, the intention's good. I don't want to hurt their self-esteem. They're worthy, they're valuable, but they don't actually feel worthy or valuable because they haven't achieved anything. They didn't do anything. This is where you have the growth of two things. One, imposter syndrome. Kids who are doing something now, they feel they don't deserve it because they wouldn't deserve it their entire childhood. So they still think they don't deserve anything. So they've got that inner thing of hating themselves and punishing others. It's Psych 101, right? You don't have to have a master's degree in psychology to figure that one out, right? Happens often, but there were mistakes that were made and still being made. And then we had the helicopter parent, which is the parent that would hover over the kid and make sure that anything went wrong, they would repair or fix or help. And now we have the bulldozer parent, which is you push every obstacle out of the way of your kid so they can just go smoothly through life, where they never fall down, never make mistakes, and then never gain anything. The amount of times I've told my daughters, you'll figure it out. I can't tell you how many times I've told them that. But Dad, I don't know. I know you don't know. You'll figure it out. And then when they figure it out, I go, well done. And they begin to gain self-esteem. That's how that works. So instead now, remember, think about this. If you're always being told that you're good or great or wonderful, and then things go wrong, something wrong, can't be my fault because it never has been. Therefore, I'm a victim. I've been insulted. Well, insulting's wrong or bad, so I'm offended. Yes, I'm looking for a referee. This goes back to the bullying piece. I'm not defending myself. I'm looking for a referee. Who's referee? Authority figures, government. And I think a lot of that culture is happening. A lot of it is. So I hope I answered your question. I went long again. I'm sorry going long in some of your comments, but you're asking some great stuff, and I want to cover those things to the best of my ability. So yes. Paul says, tyranny just around the corner, folks. We are on the road, my friend. We are walking right down that road, and most of us are smiling, arm in arm, heading right down the road to tyranny. You are correct. We are heading right down that road. 100%. Yes. All right. Why did I go after the shooters of guns if guns are the problem? Just put the guns in jail. Brilliant, Joe. Put the guns in jail. I say lock them up and throw away the key. Give them the electric chair. How about that? I love that. There we go. There we go. Let's just do that instead. Yes. Valerie says school shootings, gun-free zones where everyone's a defenseless target. Yep. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Darius says, I fought over a waiting period. I get your emotion, Darius. I do. I just don't think in today's world that you can win on everything. I just don't think we can. I think there's too many people who really do believe guns evil. I mean, I know Joe's joking when he says put the guns in jail, but a lot of people think guns just the fact that it's a gun makes it evil. I don't know if we can win in everything. And if I got to bend on something, that's the one I bend on. If that makes sense. I get we disagree. I think we're going to the same place. I'm just telling you my view. If I got to bend on one of them, that's the one I bend on. I don't bend on red flags. Red flag laws, that's unbendable. That is nothing but bad. But a reasonable waiting period, if they want that, fine. Give them that, just fine. I get that. There's an argument for that at least, right? I can get the argument. There's no argument for red flag laws, and it's nothing but bad. That I got to fight on the red. That's a hill I want to die on, but not waiting period. I'm not prepared to die on that hill. I hope you get where I'm going at least, Darius. And red flag laws. Yes, completely. Yes. That one we're together. We'll stay on that hill together, my friend. That one we'll stay on together. Absolutely. But I think you're on your own on the waiting period. That you're by yourself on that hill. Just saying. So thank you. And Colorado has red flag laws. There we go. Yes, absolutely. 100%. I think rural, she's with you, Darius. The GOA mindset. No compromise. No more gun laws, not one. Yeah. There we go. Yes, 100%. Joe says red flag laws can be used to disarm a person by another using the government force via threat of a gun. Yes. And it makes it so that if they don't do it, they get in trouble. Yes. They absolutely get in trouble. 100%. Yes. Spousal abuse. How about 40% of cops? Is that right? Wow. I hope you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. But that is a terrible stat. I'm blown away by that stat. Like you actually made me speechless for a second. I hope you're wrong. That's all I can say. That would be a terrible, terrible thing to be true. Wow. I hope that's not true. Anyway, yes. Unfortunately, those with mental illness won't seek treatment if they think their gun's going to be taken. Jimmy, you're right. And that's already happening in New York. Again, that's not theoretical. That is happening right now in New York, specifically in our veteran community. So, yeah, that's it. You'd have to be crazy to want to own a firearm. That's what they're trying to achieve, Joel. That's their point. Yes, that's what they're trying to make it happen, 100%. Paul says, I feel like they are treating us like children on this issue more than some other issues. The condescension is maddening. Constantly, Paula. Constantly. Absolutely constantly. Yes. Jamie says, waiting periods may work if the person does not own any guns at the moment. Oh, Jamie, that's a valid point. So look, maybe Darius and I can get along on this one. Maybe you have a waiting period for the first gun you buy. Look at that. See, already we're doing a realistic compromise. Because your point's valid. If I've got 6 guns, why money for the other one? I could just kill somebody with the other one. So, maybe that's the answer. It's not a bad idea. Maybe you'd make it for just, if you don't have a firearm, you have to wait for the first firearm you buy because you might be doing it in a rage. All right, fine. See, Darius, we can find an answer. You don't have to die on a hill after all. You can follow Jamie's plan. I'm calling it your plan now, Jamie. It's your plan now. You can just follow Jamie's plan and that would work. Yes. David says, in the UK, they blame the knife. It's true. There was literally, was it last year or the year before? There was several knife killings, and they showed a picture of where the person was killed, and it was literally under a knives, banning knives poster. Yeah, absolutely. That actually happens. That actually happens. So they do actually blame the knife in England because they don't have any guns. So yes, role models foster self-esteem. That's true too, Frank. Very well done. That's also true. Yes. My mother would say, if they can do something great, so can you. One needs someone to tell them they can accomplish anything. You can do it. Valid point. I agree. That's another part also, right? If you start achieving something, you watch others. I mean, how many people in this world have watched their parents achieve something and then thought, I want to do that too, right? I want to go there also. Yeah. Would you consider U.S. Senate in 2022? I would not. No, I'm an executive. That's who I am. I don't want to run for stuff. I want to run for a job that if I win, I can do. Run for a job that if I win, I can make impact. I'm an executive. That's what I do for a living. That's who I am. So I would run for an executive position. So governor or VP is probably the only place I'd ever run, is my assumption. I mean, I guess maybe I could think about it, maybe something, but I think probably no. So yeah, I think that's true. So, all right. Joe says your B-Day's in July. That's true. Can't announce in August. We'll see. I'm saying August as the last one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Brian says, Larry, we're about the same age. I've got you by 7. And I remember being taught in school that our justice system would rather one bad man go free than an innocent man go to prison. Yes, I learned the same thing, Brian. The same thing. It was the same for me. I wonder when our society changed. The war on drugs changed it. The war on drugs was lock them all up, throw them away. It doesn't matter. That's what actually changed it all. The war on drugs. Absolutely. So Joe says the government kills too many innocent people all the time. Absolutely. Yes. Andrew, the biggest thing, afraid Americans. Freedom has never been safe and never will be. Nice. I like that. I like that. Guys, I want to say thank you so much for today. I appreciate all the time you gave me. I got more cool stuff coming this week. Again, as always, please subscribe, like, comment, share. Click those links in the description so we can keep this going. I will see you all tomorrow.